Before we start the first session, I would like to remind you our Slido. The code is always here, and you can put all your questions and insights here. We have a few questions. מתי מתחילים לעצב את ההווה? Did we succeed by changing the future? Okay, so we'll refer to these questions in the end of the session. And to start the first session, the first session is learning with no time and space boundaries. Would like to invite on stage Ronen Sofer, an innovator, creative, very sharp expert with a deep experience on leading technological development and understanding its value to the users. Ronen, please. This is what Cecilia wrote about you. There's a lot of seats, empty seats here. Please.
אוי, 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 אוי. בוקר טוב לכל האורחים שקמו גם הבוקר כמו בהרבה בקרים, ובראש מעייניהם חינוך. ובהנחה שאנחנו יודעים בקירוב למה אנחנו מתכוונים כשאנחנו אומרים חינוך, אז ברוכים הבאים, ותכף נדבר על מה באנו לקבל כאן, כי אנחנו אוהבים value, תמורת הזמן וההשקעה שלנו, ואנחנו מצפים גם היום לקבל כזה value. עוד משהו, مرحبا صباح الخير لكل اصدقائنا من المجتمع العربي والمجتمع الدروزي والمجتمع الشركسي والمجتمع البدوي الجنوبي والشمالي. مرحبا فيكم وشكرا جزيلا. ما انه تاريخنا مش بالضبط مشترك، مستقبلنا مشترك، وعن جد لازم نحكي مع بعض بهذا الموضوع المهم جدا. تحياتي. למי שלא הבין, המסר הוא תלמדו ערבית, 1 זה כיף, 2 קיבלתי 10% הנחה בסופר פארם. אז יש לזה גם אספקט פרקטי. And now, under orders from Cecilia, I shall switch to English. My name is Ronen, and I am the chair of the first session. Chair is like a moderator. Let's be honest, a moderator is like a decoration, right? I mean, there's no it's the moderator. Who remembers the moderator? But because you really can think about better looking decorations than me, I decided to assume a slightly more present role. And my role, and I look at my esteemed session colleagues when I say this, the role I have taken upon myself for this session is to be the protector of the common folk. Against what, you may ask? Against your well-intended manipulations on their common perception. Because very soon you will come up here and you will say, metaverse. And we will bow. So I say to you on behalf of the wonderful people here, we do not bow when you say metaverse. We do not bow when you say AI. We didn't bow when Avi said IoT, which is like 7 years of a buzzword. We want to know where the stuff you talk about from your successes and your amazing researches, where does that stuff meet us, them, every day, and the purpose we serve? And therefore, as protector of the common folk, with my fellow mortals, I will demand from you, politely, to help us follow these simple rules. If we don't understand it, it's not our fault. If we understand it, but we can't relate to it, we have the right to be frustrated, and with that frustration to demand, or at least beg, for some answers on how some of that inspiration can become actionable for us in the everyday of trying to educate and teach. Because if we are inspired, but none of it is actionable and none of it links back to the purpose we have, then we leave this conference with false hopes. And we want to leave this conference with either a lot of actionable hope or no hope at all, but the false hopes will kill us. So let's talk about all the wonderful things that the metaverse and AI and everything that I'm doing for a living for the past 30-something years can do for us. But let's also all the time keep an eye on which modest portion of that can become actionable and meaningful to the everyday purpose in the everyday life of the educators and edtech people who will leave this conference today and continue on the journey of trying to make the world better for our children by equipping them with more tools for their future. We talk today about time and space and potentially learning and teaching without the boundaries of time and space. Time and space are inherently boundaries. They are by definition boundaries. And it is wonderful that we can challenge them. And it is wonderful that just like with the revolution of the mobile versus the fixed line, we can diminish their effect on the targets and tasks that we set out to do. But they will also always come with a price. And we will hear today about ethical aspects. We will hear today about dealing with the potential downsides, prices, challenges, and compromises that will need to be made when we use technology once again in another wave to try and conquer time and space. They will forever be boundaries. And when you think about winning over space by buying time because we're joining a lesson on Zoom, remember traffic jams that made you late to school? What about Zoom or your Windows machine restarting for 20 minutes when you need to join an important lecture online? It's the modern manifestation of the traffic jam. What hasn't changed? What hasn't changed? The anxiety, the fear, the coping of the individual in this situation. That hasn't changed since the Neanderthals chasing Neanderthal elephant. I don't know any. How do I finish this sentence? Hunting in the hunting fields and the caves and whatever. Okay, it hasn't changed. Being alone in this world, facing expectations, challenges, perception of people of us, our perception of ourselves, wanting to succeed, wanting to go through the day, that hasn't changed. And that hasn't changed for the children you teach. How do we make them stronger, more equipped? Do the technological innovations of modern day and those of the next decade and a half? Mark Zuckerberg will tell you the metaverse for now is a concept with some early signs of technology. How will these technologies make our children stronger and maybe even better humans? Is it something to aspire? Can technology help there? So this is where I will try and insist on all of ours behalf to try and get some positive, actionable inspiration. Didn't mean to scare you guys. I know what you're going to talk about and it's amazing. So, with this said, let us welcome warmly our guests from Arizona State University. Professor Lev Gonik, welcome. Hasra Thomas, welcome. Dr. Timothy Summers, welcome. And for our later session with questions, answers, and debates, Professor Shezaf Rafaeli, a wonderful, wonderful, amazing person who's been here before, and Professor Yuli Tamir, welcome to the panel. Thank you very much. Cecilia, a clicker.
Here it is. מצאתי. All right. Good morning, Tel Aviv. Thanks so much for having us here from Arizona State University. I want to begin my presentation today by giving you a little bit of a context from where we come and putting it in the context of what Avi has teed up for us. We want to very much thank the entire team from Mindset for inviting us to join you this year. We are truly humbled. We've enjoyed getting to know the team. We enjoyed our time in Yerucham yesterday, and we look forward to dialogue today with all of you. And so I very much want to share with you, thinking about time and space, a remarkable institutional transformation underway in a desert in the United States of America. Share a little bit of our background, a little bit of basically an acknowledgement of where we've come from in terms of time and space, concepts, and also kind of where we are today. My colleagues are going to, I think, really inspire you with the stories that they are working on, not conceptual work. Hasra is going to be speaking about our work in the metaverse. Timothy is going to be speaking to us about developments of digital wallets for actually verification of learning outcomes. I think these are a glimpse into the future that is today at work at Arizona State University. So just a couple of words about where I'm coming from. Arizona State University is a relatively new university, and for the last 20 years, our brand has been the new American university, a complete reinvention based on a critique of what is the traditional American public university session. I had the pleasure many years ago of going to a public university with Shezaf Rafaeli in the United States. And since then, many years ago now, but today it is basically a public university trying to be an elite university, where what really has mattered today is to try to be as selective as possible. At Arizona State University, we have fundamentally committed ourselves to public purpose, and it comes very much from our charter. When Shezaf and others have come to ASU, you always see the charter. It's chiseled into all kinds of signage. There's a poster in every room, and it speaks to three very important principles. Access, and I'm going to speak about the need to think even broader about access to education, not just to the A students, not just to the typical students, but to be thinking about access to education for neurodiverse students, 20% of the population who've never found their way into pathways into education. So very much a commitment to access, number one. Number two, research, but not research for the sake of research only, but really research in the public interest. We are a huge institution. We do almost $1 billion worth of research, but we are unique in that we bring together researchers who are very much committed to the public interest. And finally, as I'll also be briefly sharing today, a commitment fundamentally to be focused in on being of service to the community around us. Phoenix is the 5th largest city in the United States and the fastest growing city. It's also one of the poorest cities in the United States and one of the wealthiest at the same time. That's the kind of reality that we live in. It turns out we've done some remarkable things, and it's again reputational. Here in Israel, you may not have heard so much about ASU, but for good purpose. We have, for the last 8 years, been recognized as the most innovative university in the United States, and we are certainly committed. We are number 2 in the world for sustainability, number 1 in the United States for sustainability, in the middle of the desert, which is a remarkable feat in and of itself, and many, many other recognitions that make us, I think, a kind of special place to be. And again, just to give you context, we're in this huge metropolitan area. We have multiple campuses. We're also actually in cities like Los Angeles and Washington, D.C. So it gives you, and it turns out we're very, very early on into the online world. So while a lot of people wanted to talk about online learning for a lot of years, over the last dozen years, ASU has grown its online presence from originally 300 students to 83,000 online degree-seeking students pursuing almost 300 degrees developed and taught by our faculty. We're also a huge set of campuses. In terms of space, we're huge. Along the way, there's almost 1 million square feet of classroom space. And over COVID, we decided to completely transform the physical space of the university to take advantage of that tipping point. This was our moment. We spent tens of millions of dollars to say this was the time not just to paint the walls, but to actually completely rethink it. As I say, 82,000 online students is a huge sort of transformation of the traditional university that, again, was very much set up with the idea of trying to invent itself to be of service to the learners where they are. And while a lot of universities in the United States have hoped that they would be able to come back to the status quo ante, COVID is over. Let's go back to the way things were. Those were the good old days. Over COVID, ASU grew its population of students 20%. During COVID, we are the fastest growing university in the country, the largest university in the country, over 143,000 students. Largest number of international students, over 7,000 students from India alone, 31,000 engineering students at the institution. Each of these categories has grown significantly, specifically during COVID. COVID was a moment to seize the opportunity to really accelerate the work that is underway. And in our environment, I'm the Chief Information Officer of the university, we've also had to scale all the use of the technologies to meet the hybrid reality of where students, staff, and faculty are today along the way, and everything we do has to support that kind of scale. We also are, I think, doing extremely interesting work with partnerships to serve basically the workforce, and not just the workforce of the high-tech industry, but very much involved also in collaborations with new adventures, which you'll be hearing about, Dreamscape, working to provide college completion. Almost 10,000 baristas at Starbucks have completed their degrees in a partnership with ASU at no cost to them. It's a fantastic program of an initiation, same with Uber drivers, all being able to do the work online as part of their pursuit of their interests along the way. So again, the university is organized into very kind of traditional thinking about the academic enterprise, which is what you would all recognize as university, but we also have a knowledge enterprise, and we also have a learning enterprise. This concept is the composition of the way the university works. And our organization is responsible for, we have approximately 1,700 technology professionals at Arizona State University. About 700 of them are in our organization along the way. And our job is to provide that dynamic ecosystem. Okay, so that's so that my colleagues don't have to set up all of the conversation about where we come from. And just to briefly sort of share with you, obviously, to understand where we start from, the classroom is obviously not a modern artifact. This was sort of the initial sort of concept of the classroom early on, the sage on the stage. Certainly goes back a long way. And of course, we've had all kinds of ways in different kinds of traditions of evolving that kind of way of study partnerships that evolve, using obviously partnership for learning, using textbooks for discovery, and different kinds of lecture halls that are out there. And today, as we think about the evolution, in some ways, we continue to evolve. We're using some of the techniques and some of the approaches, but as you'll see in collaborative form, things that I think are actually very, very interesting. So just to sort of share with you some of the transformation that is underway, first in the physical space along the way. Again, a huge transformation of nearly 1 million square feet of classroom learning, largely into creating essentially spaces that can be reconfigured for collaboration that goes on. This is the central challenge in the United States in public education. This survey just came out of the top issues facing learning in post-COVID or in the after disease framework that was shared by Yossi. 3 of the 6 top issues are around hybrid environments, learning environments, how to meet students where they are, focusing on how to help professors and faculty and staff actually teach in those hybrid moments. This is the moment of inflection, and I think at ASU we're doing some very interesting things around that kind of work. Very much focused in on the transformation of the physical spaces, as well as actually creating very dynamic and very, I think, provocative and compelling virtual environments to support both synchronous and asynchronous learning environments that are underway. All focused, I think, with an appreciation for what it really takes to develop deep learning opportunities for students, and providing our students with all of the tools that they need to participate, not just in the learning environment, but also to provide them with the tools that they need to participate in their blended worlds, where most students today at Arizona State University have at least 1, if not 2 jobs at the same time as they are with us. And so lots of classroom transformation projects that have been underway across the institution, supporting all kinds of flexible learning environments that have transformed traditional lectures. We have almost nothing like this. There's almost no lecture halls left. Even the big 1,000-person lecture halls have all been transformed, mostly into sort of interactive, small group enabled environments that have really, at the same time, allowed us to rethink a lot of the ways in which we can use pedagogy in more creative ways. We've also taken the old computer lab environment, which used to be our building for IT, and we renamed it. It used to be called the Computing Commons. It's now called the Creativity Commons, and it is filled with a series of spaces for discovery and engagement for students, faculty, and staff. Again, developed during the pandemic, underway. Also, in the introduction of the metaverse during the pandemic, a group of students actually helped to design the first sets of experiences that ASU did in the metaverse. And again, an effort to, again, Hasra will speak to in just a moment, really designing for scale the development of a compelling, pedagogically compelling, rich narrative-based environment for really the university of the future. And this is really work that is underway, which you'll hear about in just a moment. Again, designed with our students initially, and now being consumed by thousands of students this semester at ASU. I think just a last couple of words here, talking about what comes next in terms of space and time. I think that one of the questions is to sort of lean forward, thinking about space and time, thinking about our public mission. What we did was we actually had a very similar session to this. It was a kind of conversation that turned into a brainstorming session about what we wanted to do during the COVID period, to think about what we would do when we came out of the COVID period. And we imagined a sort of a future set of scenarios about how we wanted to create this blended hybrid environment for the students that we have and the students we think we are going to have in the future, and the roles of instructors and professional staff along the way. And everything that we came up with in terms of principle was to focus in on the importance of principles, things that don't necessarily change with the shiny new objects of the technology, thinking about the importance of curriculum, thinking very much about how the individual really needs to be involved in the learning, but not necessarily alone. What is the role of the instructor? Students as co-creators, really trying to figure out our contribution both as learners and as contributors to broader society. These are some of the central evergreen efforts. And it turns out that when you think about the needs in a city like Cleveland, you start with a city like Phoenix, Arizona. One of the central challenges is that a huge part of the community doesn't have access to internet. And it's a reality we understand here in Israel as well. So as a public institution, we're making major investments to provide broadband access to the community. We're also engaged in trying to support the community in terms of new opportunities to create physical assets that can be utilized to bring the university to the community and not simply demand that the students find their way to the institution. So we've built out a whole ecosystem to support this work. We have literally millions of people both in Arizona and beyond engaged in using the ASU for Life, the ASU for You environment. That is where our learning enterprise has evolved to. These are opportunities for you not just to come to the university for course credit, but also badges, which again you'll hear from Timothy in just a moment about, and accumulating in your digital wallet, those kinds of opportunities. And as has been mentioned, and we hope will be one of the themes today, really taking seriously basically not only security but also privacy by design, and thinking through the ethical implications for all of the work that our teams take on along the way, trying to develop leadership opportunities for our staff in this new world to invent the future together. And then, as I said, to really think about what's the next frontier for the learners that have yet to come into the world of higher education, that have been beyond the pale of the possible, and thinking about all the remarkable human beings that would not have otherwise been able to contribute if we were only taking, quote-unquote, normal students along the way. So advancing neurodiversity is one of our big efforts right now. 20% of the population doesn't learn in a typical way, trying to use our technology to advance those kinds of learners that are out there. Well, again, I've more or less run out of time, so I'm just going to say, in general, the challenge to you all is what is it that hopefully you will be able to take from this sort of this first framing of the opportunity here. Where are the new innovation opportunities? And at least a couple of them you're going to hear from my colleagues in just a second. So with that, Hasra. Thank you.
Hello, so my name is Hasra Thomas. I'm a director at Arizona State University. I'm working specifically in Realm 4 initiatives. It's my first time in Israel. It's been wonderful, and I'm happy that you're here. So I'm here to talk about Dreamscape Land, one of the most recent initiatives we have going on at Arizona State University. I had not planned on even saying the word metaverse, so I'm kind of sad that our wonderful moderator was giving us some stick about that. So I will not say metaverse, but you will hear a lot about Dreamscape Land. So at ASU and in the United States, we see a consistent issue, a consistent problem. So in the US, close to half of our students drop out of the STEM fields. So if you're not familiar, STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So at some point in their university career, half of the students will drop out of these fields. So why is this really a problem? So within the next 10 years, there'll be twice as many STEM jobs in the STEM field than any other field in the US industry. Because of this high attrition rate, we naturally have a big talent gap. And to drill down into the numbers a bit more, there will be 1.3 million new openings in the STEM field in the US, but we have fewer than 600,000 new graduates. And a little anecdotal fact there, 75% of the best paid careers are also in the STEM field. So to bring it back and to give you a bit more of a broader context at ASU and to expound upon what Lev was saying initially. So at ASU, we have 5 realms of learnings. At the core, we have the core knowledge that all students will intake, regardless of which realm they're in. So we have realm 1, which is full on-campus, more traditional, but enhanced by technology. Then we have digital immersion, our online learning. Realm 3 will be open scaled, so having the technology infrastructure to serve tens of thousands of students online. And then Realm 4, education through exploration and using high-intensity technology-based learning experience to improve the students' engagement within their curriculum and to improve their outcomes. So this is what we kind of hold in as our solution to solve this massive attrition issue that we're seeing. So we've decided to engage students through virtual reality experiences and support learning with an adaptive curriculum. So an adaptive curriculum is a curriculum that responds to the students like where they are in that moment. So it will identify if the student has any deficiencies and needs to have previous knowledge resurfaced so that they can remaster that material before they go on. So this is our president, Michael Crowe. He's been the president of ASU for the past 16 years, and it was under his leadership that we've received that most innovative university for 8 years in a row. So Michael Crowe had this big vision of what he wanted Realm 4 to look like. And now we get to what is Dreamscape Land. Hopefully this works.
One of the biggest presenting problems in higher education in the 21st century is student disengagement. A sense of wonder, a sense of curiosity, all of those moods are things that set the occasion for student learning. And not just for student learning, but for persistence. If you're in a place that allows you to be engaged, or a place that invites you into engagement, you're more likely to stay, to persist, to retain, and in the case of a university, to graduate, to earn a degree.
Too often, we actually force students to learn things that really isn't going to be useful to them once they get out from undergraduate education. So most of the stuff that I learned, that I find useful, I learned on the job trying to perform a specific task or solve a specific problem. So how do we solve that problem? One way to solve that problem is to rethink how we educate people and to focus less on specific details and more on process. Do I know what to do with that knowledge? Do I know how to vet that knowledge to determine whether it's accurate? What virtual reality and Dreamscape Learn in particular helps us do is it helps us to put students through experiences that enable them to practice those skills. So they can engage in just about any experience anywhere in the world because it's a virtual world. It gives us the freedom to design all kinds of highly relevant, novel problems for students to encounter, analyze, and solve on their own. So there's a body of literature that already shows that virtual reality experiences enhance retention and also can prepare a student to perform a task. We've seen about a letter grade learning gain in a single day when students would take a series of VR experience interspersed with lessons and activities in the topic of ecology.
It was pretty shocking. I went in expecting something cool, but what I got was a lot more than that. It was dope, seeing everything around me.
I thought it was super interesting. It was really immersive, really exciting. It really felt like we were there, and there was just so much to look at.
I actually really enjoyed it. I'm more of a hands-on learner, so this simulation really helped me retain most of the information, and it really felt like I was a true scientist in there.
It's hard to say what the future of Dreamscape Learn will look like because we've built such a great platform for immersive and experiential learning. We have the ability to deliver any type of experience to our students. We essentially have a portal that can take students anywhere to learn anything. And when you think about it that way, I think the better question might be, what won't Dreamscape Learn look like in the future? Because anything is really possible. This isn't the cutting edge, this is the bleeding edge of technology.
So Dreamscape Land is a collaborative venture between Dreamscape Immersive, a California-based VR entertainment company, and Arizona State University. And its mission is to merge the most advanced experiential pedagogy with the entertainment industry's best cinematic storytelling. So to give you some context for that video, we had a pilot 2 years ago. It was conducted in the middle of the pandemic in April 2020 with about close to 100 students. So they had a one-day session where they came in, they did the Dreamscape Land experiences, but they also did a pre and a post test. So we wanted to evaluate them preliminarily on whether they enjoyed the experience, whether they were engaging more with the material, and whether they learned. So when we conducted that pilot, our initial results were very promising, and we were encouraged to continue. But we knew that that was a very small sample of students, so we did a larger pilot recently this year with close to 600 students there, and I'll talk about that, the results of that a bit later. So what makes Dreamscape Land special? First, we're using very cutting-edge VR technology. This technology was developed by a group of scientists in Geneva, Switzerland. It does full body capture, hand tracking, eye tracking. There's a lot of data analytics that's fed back from the experience to us that we can analyze. So that's one component. The next component is we've implemented engaging storytelling. So we have our partners, Dreamscape Immersive. Their co-founder is Walter Parks. He's a former Hollywood producer, so he has that expertise in developing a good story and developing an engaging narrative. And then the third component is we've implemented adaptive courseware that adjusts our student needs in real time. So this is a bit about Walter Parks. If you do not recognize the name, you might recognize some of his movies. He's produced movies such as Gladiator, the Men in Black series, Prince of Egypt, Minority Report. So he had this vision. He thought that the movie industry was a dying art form, and he really wanted to pursue VR and doing storytelling within VR. So Michael Crowe, our president, always had this vision of what Realm 4 and education through exploration would look like. But what he did not have was the tool to execute on that vision. So he was invited to do the Alien Zoo experience with Walter Parks at their California store. And when he saw it, he had this huge epiphany that we could use this concept and these VR technologies to teach biology. So a bit more about the platform. I mentioned before that it was developed in Geneva. They are merging the techniques of motion capture and full body mapping. So the experience allows them to do a minimum of 6 people at a time in VR, but a maximum of 35. So at ASU, we wanted to find out, are these experiences really having an impact? What happens when we make engagement the foundation of our curriculum? So this is the way that we've integrated these VR experiences into our biology curriculum. So Cogbooks is the adaptive learning piece, and then the students will go into a VR session. So we've created 6 modules in total for the biology curriculum. Each module is made up of 3 acts. So for example, there's a module called cell biology. So it's been split into 3 parts, and then the first part of cell biology, in this 10-minute VR experience, the students do their discovery. They find out what the problem is, what is happening in this ecosystem that's causing this species to die or to be sick. So they enter their VR experience, then they go back to their class, and they do their in-lab analysis. So within the VR experience, they are actually collecting data, which is sent back to the LMS system, and which they can also download as an Excel spreadsheet. Because the professors, they want the students to still do the data analytics that will be expected of them in their classes, and these foundational skill sciences have to do regardless. So they collect the data in the VR experience. We've set up the infrastructure so that that data can be transported back via API. Then the students can download the file and do their data analysis in class. So that's the discovery. Then they go back into the VR experience and do the second part, which is the investigation. Okay, they've identified that there's a problem. Let's try to figure out the cause of this problem. So they're developing their hypotheses, they're doing more data analysis, et cetera, in class. And then the third part is the resolution, where they find a solution. So for example, for cell biology, they discover that it was a cancer that was affecting these creatures. and they've developed a formula to cure this cancer, and then they inject it into the creature. So it's very cool. There's some aspects of it where, for example, in Act 2, they're shrunk down to a nano-size, very tiny particle in VR, and they go inside of the blood cell. So these students can have that around them, and they're in there, and it's very impressive, in my opinion. So, as I mentioned earlier, we did a very small study 2 years ago, but we really wanted to understand, does this really have an impact on their learning and their engagement? We didn't want to just do it just because it was fun. So these are the research questions that our team of scientists delved into, but essentially it was to answer the question of, are students more engaged when they're in VR and when VR is a component of their course? And is this helping them learn? So the key factors that were measured: participation, performance, level of collaboration, engagement, learning outcomes, and general enjoyment. So this slide shares the information on the question, did the students enjoy the VR experience? So throughout the entire experiences that they did, they all rated it very highly on a scale of 1 to 4, with 1 being poor, 5 being excellent. On average, it was a 4.5, and that was irrespective of which module and which act. So students enjoyed them equally. What we were most impressed by was that, so we had 600 students in this biology course. It was introductory biology, 4 majors. Of those 660 students, about 500 consented to participate in this study. So we were able to split those who consented to participate into the study into a treatment group, so those who did the DSL experience, and a non-DSL group. So we have the results here, and those that were in the DSL labs, the median grade was a 96%, and those in non-DSL labs, the median grade was 87%. So it was close to a full grade point difference. And then we also saw that those in the DSL lab assignments were twice as likely to get an A in the class than those who were not part of the DSL. So we kind of encourage that, hey, it looks as though it is helping them perform better. So at ASU, we have a very diverse student body, and so we wanted to ensure that students were having, like, that Dreamscape Immersive was having an equal impact across our various demographics. So we didn't want it to be harmful to one particular group and work really well in another group. So again, we saw that across the different intersectionalities that we look like, we did not see any disparities in the performance that could be attributed to one of these demographics. Each demographic showed an improvement in their performance when they were placed in the DSL lab assignments, with the exception of our Barrett honors students, who did equally well in both. They scored 97 on average in each one. And our honors students are the highest performing students at the university. So, in a summary of our research results, so students overwhelmingly loved the experience. It had a positive impact by our estimation on their engagement and their learning outcomes, and we're going to continue to study the impact of DSL as we scale it out to other courses. So this was just biology, a couple of sections in biology in the spring, and we have more sections in fall, and so on and so forth, because we have up to 3,500 students who are just doing that individual course, Bio 181. So we're going to continue to study the impact of Dreamscape Land, not just on our biology students, but as we scale it out to other subject areas as well. But I also have another cool video that shows what the students actually think of the Dreamscape Land experience. So you're going to see a few students here. It was their first experience ever with DSL, and we were able to chat with them.
I didn't expect it to look so realistic. This is definitely cooler. This is definitely better.
Compared to in-person, VR experience is a lot more beneficial to learn from.
It's more immersive. You get a lot more hands-on experience.
Felt like I was in the environment itself.
The seats actually vibrated with you, so you can feel the movement. You can hear like the birds, you can hear the wildlife around you, you can see the wildlife around you.
The chairs shake and they have like wind blowing at you when you're like flying around.
Instead of just reading about it, you get to experience it. You're using all 5 of your senses, and you're getting a lot of information in different ways, and so I think that's a lot more helpful than just reading from a textbook.
That was it. Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Hello. Can everyone hear me okay? This is my absolute first time in Israel, and I'm having an amazing time. Thank you for having us. So, my name is Timothy Summers. My job at ASU is to play with futuristic tech and try to make it practical today. And I'm going to show you a little bit the technology my team and I have been building called Pocket. We're really, really excited about this, and I'm incredibly excited to share it with you. So, the learner journey is completely complex. We know this. There's so much there. In the United States right now, the average age in college is 26.4. I've looked actually at statistics here in Israel. It's 29. Of course, military service is in that number as well. You guys are familiar with a lot of these statistics. You're educators. I don't have to talk to you about them. You know your statistics in your area. But we do know that there are multiple pathways to get there, to get to your goal, to get where you want to be. And we've heard this term, the Great Resignation. We all have heard this. We also know that skills-based economy is where much of the industry is going. Many of the students, in fact, I'll show you a little bit of data, are even very interested in skills. And this is something that we're going to talk a little bit about. There's a lot of evidence out here about the use of ledgers and all kinds of other technology to really sort of help facilitate building this economy, this skills economy, if you will. And we've been playing with some really nascent, groundbreaking technology to really bring this to life. One of the things we found really fascinating is that if you look at the Gen Z teens, and this is a study done in the States, 56% believe that a skills-based education makes sense in today's world. Something very, very interesting to think about. 62% said they want to forge their own educational path. Also another really interesting data point. So Pocket is completely reimagining the learner journey a little bit. We've built a digital wallet and portfolio that enables learners to capture all of their learning achievements, no matter what they are, formal, informal. Obviously, the lifelong learner journey is a very human journey. We just decided maybe there's some technology that we can build some tools along the way to assist, to facilitate. And so with Pocket, one of the reasons we call it Pocket, is you can have a pocket full of achievements, all of your skills, your courses, your degrees, and so much more. Maybe even things that you've done while you were in the Scouts. Maybe there's some skills that you've learned along the way. So our digital wallet and portfolio, it's not for capturing your money, it's for capturing your achievements. You can put just about anything in it. We don't want to be prescriptive. We want learners to be able to put anything they want in there. Transcripts, diplomas, badges, videos, assignments, internship skills, anything. Awards, certificates, experiments that they've done with their friends, with their colleagues. We don't want to be prescriptive about it at all. And you're going to see real screens here of Pocket. This is the actual software as it exists today. So with Pocket, you're able to collect all of those achievements. You're then able to curate them into a portfolio that you can represent your work, connecting it with jobs of the future because you've accumulated skills and all kinds of other things along the way. And that's what you're going to need in your job when you get there, right? When you actually get into the workplace and start executing on those things. And we all know there's a massive gap between what you learn in the classroom and what you actually do in your job. Pocket has been architected very, very simply. It's open source tech. We've built it on open standards. There's a front-end app that works on a digital device, any mobile device. Right now, it's a mobile phone. We have it on both Apple and Android. And then back end, we have a series of servers that really handle the verification and issuance of credentials. The technology that we're working with here, you've probably heard about Web3 and ledgers, but there's another piece of technology called verifiable credentials that we're very, very, very interested in. We've been really exploring here. And verifiable credentials are digital representations of our real-world credentials. You can have verifiable credentials, passport. You can have a driver's license verifiable credential. You can have a degree as a verifiable credential. Leveraging the latest in security and privacy technologies, you're actually able to share your credential with someone, and they're able to verify that it's a real credential, that it was really issued to you, that it's still active and has not been revoked, that all of the things that you might want for a credential. But something really, really, truly amazing about Pocket. We put learners right at the center. We decided to take an ecosystem approach to it, but with learners being right at the middle of it. We wanted to ensure that learners had increased ownership over their data. We wanted to make sure that learners had the ability of a tool that could help them navigate the journey from classrooms to careers. And we also wanted to empower them with more control over their records. In fact, when we've done surveys with students about Pocket, one of the most powerful things that they've said to us is, it's kind of like owning the masters to my music. And we thought that was incredibly powerful. Again, the software, the platform is completely open source tech. We've been building on Hyperledger Indy and Aries, which are some of the latest groundbreaking technology in decentralized identity. Going with the theme, we actually heard a little bit earlier about learner identity, so we know this is incredibly important. And we've been a part of some of the global standards bodies out there, W3C, the Linux Foundation. In fact, in many of these spaces, we're actually leading in a lot of the thought leadership, which is amazing and truly awesome to be collaborating with folks around the world on this technology. Even though we're based in Arizona, something really fascinating about Pocket is that our engineering team is across 14 different countries. So we have a truly, truly global team here. Another really important piece to note here is that we did this during the pandemic. We actually put the plan together for this. It's 2020, and we said, hey, this is something we can do. And our president and Lev in their fashion were like, well, how quickly can you do it? And so we've been able to turn this around pretty fast and do some testing. This is a little bit technical, but I wanted to just share with you a little bit of what we've done. We've actually built infrastructure here that enables Pocket to be useful to other places, to other institutions, to organizations, to employers. And we're really trying to build a massive network of partners to actually participate and be able to do the issuance of credentials and leveraging Pocket such that their learners can leverage Pocket along the way. We've built a number of massive things here, a scalable service-oriented architecture. Cybersecurity is a really important topic for me, so privacy and security are first for us. The user interfaces and the automation that we've built into this platform, we're trying to make it so that there is an incredibly low barrier to implementation. Even though this is new tech, we don't think you should have to be a rocket scientist in order to set it up. You'll notice that this color scheme on this slide is a little bit different from the others. It's because it was from our original pitch deck. So we stayed true to our principles all along the way, keeping learners at the middle and really thinking about institutions and employers as being important feeders to this ecosystem. And again, another one of our original slides, our roadmap showing our 5-year plan and what we've been thinking. In the very beginning, we knew we needed a wallet and portfolio, but then we said there has to be more. There has to be an ecosystem with tools in it, with services that learners will be able to utilize. And we'll talk a little bit about some of those here. Portfolio is one of such features that we have built into the app. My skills and my competencies, which actually enables the issuance of skills and competencies as verifiable credentials. Really, really powerful. Another piece that's really amazing, we built something called My Data. My Data is a feature in the app that allows the learner to see where they are in their learner journey. It actually visualizes the learner journey in the form of a map. We can actually, and you can change the view. You can see a gridded view of all your accomplishments. You can see a map view of your accomplishments. Really powerful. And if you think about it, regardless of what level of education anyone has, or the socioeconomic strata where they are, none of us has a single sheet of music of all of our achievements. And that's really, really powerful right now. So, like we said, we've been thinking about this, taking an ecosystem approach to it from the very beginning. We saw this emerging ecosystem of Pocket, and we started building a suite of services around it, and we've been envisioning potential futures of where it could go and what could be done. And really, one of the really powerful and exciting things about presenting in a forum like this is you will be able to take this into your mind and think of all kinds of ways we might be able to do more with this, and we invite you to help us make it better. So with Pocket, these are real screens from the app. We operate Pocket a bit like a startup. So every few months, we actually churn out new iterations of the software. We're all the time talking with students about it, getting constant feedback, asking them, how can we make it better? These are the screens here for setting up your Pocket. Name and email is very simple. The beautiful, really, really simple part of the process, you can actually download all of your academic records from your institution just by scanning a QR code with your Pocket. Really amazing. So with your Pocket full of credentials, what kind of things can you do? Course records, list of all your earned skills, evidence of your degree, certifications, badges, your portfolio of work, and much, much more. These are some additional screens from the app. We've built our archetype, Hannah. Hannah has a bunch of badges and skills here on her main screen. You can see here her course records that she's pulled in from that QR code sample that I showed you. Her portfolio of work can be represented here. Instead of not only giving her a paper credential, you can issue her a digital credential right to her Pocket. And she can utilize that when she goes to jobs or wherever the case may be, where she needs to represent her degree or that certification, or any kind of scores maybe for professional credentials that she holds. So the massive gap, right, between the classroom and the workplace. So let's talk about that a little bit, because skills are incredibly important here. By enabling learners to capture their skills across all the experiences that they have, we're thereby empowering them to be able to actually now have in one place all of my things, all of the things that I know how to do, all of the things that I can actually bring to the job or bring to the workplace. And then what about matching the knowledge and skills that you have to jobs of the future? How do you actually do that? One of the biggest challenges, you talk to any company, one of the biggest challenges companies have is seeing what talent they have in their company right now. Imagine if the folks in the company could actually make their skills public, where you can just search them and say, oh, wait a minute, I see we've got people doing AI now. There you go, there's your buzzword. So this is actually one of my most excited parts of Pocket. The ability to see, okay, here we see Hannah is in COM 259. This is real information from the ASU LMS and SIS. We actually have real integration right now. And so we can pull up the course, we can see the skills that Hannah is supposed to get from that course, we can drill into the specific skill of public speaking, we can actually drill in and see the evidence that she has. What things has she done around public speaking? Her assignments, things that she's saved in her Dropbox. Maybe there are assignments that you sent in for your class. But I really, really love the single sheet of music, all of my skills right here. I can drill down and see where I got those skills, what they're for, any collaborators, maybe even on my projects, all kinds of really, really exciting things. Now, one of the first things we did with Pocket was doing credit mobility. We really thought it was important to be able to see and enable students to move their credits from one place to another. And we started doing that by thinking about, okay, community colleges. Many of our students that come to ASU may attend community college. I myself was a community college student. So how do we provide that ability for students to be able to move their credits to where they need them to be? So we demonstrated students being able to move their credits from community college to ASU and reverse transfer as well. Pocket shows you progress toward your degree. Really, really awesome. Something that learners everywhere need. Again, we've been building a massive ecosystem here of partners. it would be remiss if I didn't, share the blessing there. We've raised, and this is with grants, we've raised $2.4 million from the Stand Together Network. Bill and Melinda Gates gave us another 2.1. We really have just been heads down, working really hard. We just got $750,000 from Walmart. Walmart has asked us if we would work with employers to actually stand up Pocket for them. I'm really excited about some of the discussions we've had with some companies like Starbucks. You guys may be familiar with those guys. We actually think that it's really, really an amazing opportunity to provide employees within companies with Pocket so that they have the ability to actually traverse and move up the ladder.
At Pocket, we believe in the lifelong learner journey. That's why we're creating a digital wallet and portfolio that captures the experiences, skills, knowledge, and work gathered across our lifetimes. Take, for example, Hannah, a recent college graduate ready to embark on her career path. But knowing and owning the achievements that got her there is key to driving where she'll go next. For Hannah, getting into Arizona State University was a major milestone along her journey. Throughout her 4 years at ASU, Hannah completes over 60 classes across a variety of subjects, including transferring in credits from her local community college. She is awarded for skills in teamwork, public speaking, and visual design, and even lands an internship at a local nonprofit to support their marketing efforts. Along the way, Hannah is building a portfolio to showcase her breadth of knowledge, experiences, and skills using Pocket. Pocket is a digital wallet and portfolio that empowers users to capture the learner journey and match their skills with jobs of the future. With Pocket in hand, learners like Hannah can collect evidence of their learning, curate their unique portfolios, and connect their knowledge, skills, and credential to future opportunities in work and education. With her portable and secure learner record in hand, Hannah is ready to take charge of her future and continue adding and building her digital portfolio along the way.
Thank you so much for this opportunity to share Pocket with you.
So much to choose from. Thank you very much. I am a little bit disappointed, I have to admit, because none of your presentations pissed me off, which I feel unmotivated. Honestly, congratulations. This almost never happens. And I'm always here, I'm like prepared to get pissed off. Your presentations were solid. The purpose was clear. How you measure and where you intend to go was there. And it really pisses me off that it doesn't piss me off. So it doesn't mean, congratulations and thank you very much. But it doesn't mean that I don't have questions. Cecilia gives us 15 minutes, and she's scary. I always say she's scary. She's like really scary. Don't believe the crying. Like she says, I won't cry, then she cries. She's scary, okay? So I want to comply. I want to start with you, Yuli. And I have two questions, one regarding Dreamscape and the other regarding Pocket. With Dreamscape, we saw a lot of terminology that comes from maybe my world, the world of digital services in the consumer world, in the commercial world. We're talking about personalization, adapting. We're talking about engagement as a key value. And there's a lot of technology involved. My first question to Hasra would be about scale, but we're going to skip that because scaling that seems to be, from a technological standpoint, quite a challenge. But I'm asking you, with all your experience and successes and scars from the real world, what would it take, and is it even possible? And what can we do to make some of that value proliferate into the real system? Let's start with that.
Thank you. Is it working? Yeah. So good morning, and thank you for inviting me to be in this interesting panel. I've been following Arizona State University for a long while and very impressed with what you are doing. But I want to say what annoyed me. we know a lot, I think, about technology and education. But there is a gap in, I think, the work of many of these developments. And it relates to the training of teachers to incorporate technology in schools. So we come, I mean, yeah, I don't know how many teachers are here, which is something else that bothers me, because when we talk about the future, I would like to see teachers included. And a lot of what happens now in the technological world is people with great ideas and really inspiring ideas, developing wonderful tools, and then they are implementing them in school over the heads of the teachers. And the fact that the teachers are left out means that this is not going to be the basic way we teach. And I fear that we're missing an attempt, which could be, I think, a wonderful collaboration. You have a teacher training school. I don't know how much. I don't know how much you work with them. If you do, I would love to hear about it, because I feel that at least in Israel, with all the great technologies that are here, we as a teacher training college, and for those who don't know, I'm the head of one of the largest teacher training colleges in Israel. We don't see that technology sees the teacher as a consumer rather than the child. Because if the teacher does not consume technology and does not have the means and the abilities and the desire to use it, we're going to lose. So that's one point that, if I may, I would just say one other thing that annoyed me. Hope it will annoy you too, so you can join hands. With all this attempt, and I'm sorry, I'm sort of influenced, I hope you are, by the coming election in Israel. I hope you're influenced by the coming elections in the United States, or the fear of the coming election. With all our attempts to think about STEM, and we in Beth Barrel have a great STEM program and so on, I think one of the things that we're missing with focusing about technology is focusing about virtues, democracy, values that could be, I think, developed but are neglected because they're not good for the market. But no market can survive in a non-democratic state. And we've been so attuned to, and you all said it is good for the market, it is good for income. How many high-income people do not understand what democracy is? I think it's your problem, I think it's our problem, I think it's a global program, and we as educators have missed the point. So those two things are on my mind when I was listening to your wonderful presentations.
Yeah, just a very good points. Let's just start with the first point, which is very important, which is at ASU we have 5,600 instructors, teachers, professors. So we have a very large body. We have the largest teacher college in the United States, and really very much committed to the entire process that we described here, both Pocket and with Dreamscape. And really, as Cecilia and Avi know, we had 20 different projects that we'd proposed for this gathering. They chose these two. Most of them involved deep engagement, all the way not only from our teachers' college, but from the superintendent of K-12 instruction in the state of Arizona. She has brought through literally hundreds of teachers, both to experience, but also then to participate in essentially the co-creation process, to give feedback to these initiatives that are underway, as well as, again, the very large teachers' college activity. Our experience has been very different, I think, than a lot of universities in the United States. We have more demand for online instruction and more demand for innovative integration of these blended environments, driven by our faculty, by our teachers. We're not pushing it at all by the administration. In fact, we don't have enough staff or internal resources to deal with the demand that's there. The broader question or statement that you made about the state of play in the United States, all I will share with you is that we bear huge responsibility for our failure in universities, in my view. I think it's also a view shared by the President Crowe, for sure, for actually not only failing STEM education, but for actually being unable to actually create compelling reasons for the population at large to
actually be part of the pathway and the journey. We're trying to meet learners where we think they are through these different kinds of environments, but your point is well taken. Your elections here next week and ours shortly thereafter are hugely important. The only thing that I know is that we have lost confidence that science matters. We have lost confidence that competency matters. And we've lost perhaps sense that democracy is actually as important as many of us would like. I agree with you on those points.
Or maybe, as I say to my kids, we live in an era where truth doesn't exist anymore. But something needs to be defended, and the education system is in the forefront of trying to defend that. What that thing is in fact in question. But following up on this, and still, Yuli, while we have you, Pocket is an interesting technological platform, but when Timothy was talking, I kept thinking about what is the purpose? What is the purpose? And then I realized, or Timothy helped me realize, it's skill-based matching, a strong presence to the employment market. Right. And I want to ask you, and then we'll move to you, Shazaf, how big a role does the employer market play in setting goals for the education system? And how important is it for us to create the tools and the skills to feed that part of society, the industry, in an effective manner?
I'm going from here directly to Shderot, not to Shderot, to Kenes Shderot in Beersheba this year to annoy a lot of people there, because I believe that in at least my role as a teacher trainer, skills are everything. And other things could be, other things for me now are secondary. Whereas a lot of people would say, subject matter is the first, is the king, and all the rest serves the subject matter. Skills are everything, because today to teach, also to do other things, you need a developed, wide range of skills. You cannot be narrow-skilled. And I think that one thing we're missing in education at large and in teacher training as well is that we don't have the opportunity to allow, and you talked about it, it was very interesting, allowing students to define what they want to learn, see where they feel their force lies, and allow them to be that thing. They could be arty, they could be mathematically oriented, allow people to develop their skills. I think our system, and here I talk about Israel because I don't know enough about teacher training in Arizona, is very much subject-oriented and not skill-oriented, where the market is actually asking for skills. Here is another failure, which is even worse. Teachers, there is no return on investment for teachers who develop their own skills. I really love the Pocket idea. And then I said, okay, I'm going to do it for my students, they'll have it. And I said, who will they show it to? Because teachers are not hired by their skills. They are placed, which is a word that tells you a lot. They are placed by the state in schools. So when there is no return on skill development, people who are studying, I mean, Shazaf is in Shankar. I know Shankar in a way. We are Shankar. I've been the president of Shankar before Shazaf. If you are a designer, there is a return of investment if you develop some skills. If you're a teacher, there isn't. This is a tragedy for the teaching profession in Israel and in many other places where it is government-oriented and teachers cannot perform according to the skill, but perform according to a somehow design program that is imposed from the top. And we therefore lose a lot of skills and a lot of abilities to allow teachers to develop and transform teaching because they do something they believe in, like to do, and are very good at.
Thank you very much. Professor Shazaf, you've been researching and writing about many of these aspects for a long time, and I've enjoyed a lot of your insights in the past. what can you tell us about the room for technology, the role of personalization, adaptive learning, and immersive experiences, and maybe a little bit from your point of view, what's beyond time and space? Where is this heading?
So first, thank you for inviting me. Thank you for putting up this conference. I had the personal opportunity of visiting with Lev and Timothy in Arizona just a few months ago and seeing firsthand Dreamscape, Pocket, and the other very impressive activities at Arizona State. And let me tell you, from close up, they are even more impressive than we've seen here. I also would like to join Yuli's point about educating and leading and inculcating values as being central to this discussion. And I'd like to focus on the theme for this conference, the tipping point of time and space, and suggest that for too long we've been talking about time and space only. For too long we've been hanging high hopes on the end of history or the death of distance, time and space. In both cases, prophecies that have failed. The distance didn't die, history didn't end, and technology certainly did not deliver either of those. And so the question is, what is this real tipping point that the title, Time and Space Tipping Point, suggests? It's not the end of time, it's just a different examination of time through new opportunities. It's not the end of distance or a change in space, it's a different examination of space. But what I'd like to suggest that both the opportunities and the subjects that we need to study and critique ethically with technologies, the measuring sticks all of us need to bring when we consider adopting new technologies, when we think about funding new enterprises, when we think about infusing these innovations into our educational systems, need to take into consideration where we'd like to be on the continuum of time, synchronous or asynchronous, maybe controlled or not controlled, where we'd like to be on this spectrum of distance, here or there. Do we want our children to work at a distance or at a certain place? Do we want to live at a certain place or be nomads? Do we want school to be a house or just a virtual concept? That's time and space. But what I'd like to suggest, now answer your question, Ronen, is that in addition to time and space, concepts that we've already been thinking about for 20 or 30 years, there are at least 4 more dimensions. We need to think about direction. Who talks to whom? Who interacts with whom? Technology allows us to change directions of speech. Lev alluded to this in interaction spaces as opposed to sage on a stage setups. There are other forms of new directions, new forms of who speaks to whom, whether or not things are participatory or just trickle down. So direction is a 3rd dimension in addition to time and space, and I'd like to add 3 more. I think we need to think about play seriously. Technology affords us the opportunity to bring play back into the learning space in a way that we have pushed away or maybe even oppressed in the 200 or 300 years of modern day function of education. Homo ludens, the playing person, is something that we need to rediscover. We can rediscover with technology. We're beginning to rediscover with technology, and the better technology is the one that is more playful, more simulation-based. Dreamscape is an example. The 4th dimension that I'd like to suggest is the idea of network. We are all exposed to networks in increasing degrees, but we have not yet adopted the notion of networks, the language of networks, the metaphor and models of networks, the mathematics of networks into our day-to-day thinking. It's the networks of content, hypertext, And it's the networks of people in the form of social media in the good sense of the word. It's the networks that we learn from. We learn a whole lot more from our colleagues and co-studiers than we will learn from any sage on any stage. So let's bring the network into the administration of learning. We're doing too little of that as of yet. And the last point, to me, I think maybe the most important, and especially connected to my work at Shankar and college that has engineering and design, is this new emergence of the meeting point of design and engineering. We're seeing in recent months new heights in the way in which engineering and design interact. Maybe the highlight of this are the new meeting points of artificial intelligence and machine learning into creativity. The creation of, I was told that some of the pictures Avi showed were actually not drawn by anyone, but by a machine. I think that's, Avi, is that correct? Did you use DALL-E for that? And that's a current example of the meeting point of engineering and design that is encroaching on everything. It's encroaching on what we should learn. It's encroaching on what we should teach. It's encroaching on the new pedagogy of what we want to inculcate in our students. And it's encroaching on the design of institutions. And we are still having a conversation, STEM or not STEM, values as opposed to STEM. No, it's those things working together. It's these interactions of design and engineering that should find their way into curriculum, should find their way into using technology, should find their way into the decisions about adoption, and maybe the most important thing, should find their way into our serious discussion of the ethics of technology in our life, including education. So just to sum up, it's time and space, but it's also play, it's also interaction, it's also the notion of networks, and it's also the notion of design and engineering working together.
Thank you very much. To summarize, I want to ask you two a question each. Hasra, what has been most fun and rewarding and satisfying about leading this project? And Timothy, not in numbers or KPIs, but in purpose and essence, what is your victory image 5 years from now for Pocket?
Okay, it works. So the most fun part has been sitting in the pods that we built for our students and hearing their reactions to the VR experience, saying, this is so cool, you guys are doing really cool stuff, this is awesome. And so we're excited that they're learning from it, seeming to learn from it, but having their reactions and sitting in that pod and seeing them, how much they enjoy it. Yeah, that's been the best part.
How much appetite is there to see this scale and reach more humans?
We actually launched a cloud streaming version of this for our online users in May, and they've been using it since May up till now. And then by next year, we're hoping to have a headset version so users in their home can participate in the same DSL experience.
Ronan, there's actually 5 separate additional curricular vectors for the Dreamscape. So biology is where we started. Most of it is to solve for the problem of STEM, but there are also now interesting work in basically earth and space science, in oceans, and also in beginning to look at anatomy. These are all subjects where we see pain in the education system, and we're trying to use play and engagement as really a vector into that work.
Wonderful. In the coffee break, you, me, and someone from CET will stand together having coffee. I will ask you, how much does it cost to create one module properly? And they'll say how much it costs to print one book on the topic. And then we'll talk about not just benefit, but cost. I'm saying this with zero cynicism or sarcasm, but with huge appetite. Scale is the #1 barrier for this, and like other barriers, it should be overcome. But right now, it's the most interesting thing, and we should look at it. Timothy, victory image 5 years from now, because Cecilia is getting really scary. Oh, tranquilo. Yeah, okay.
We have permission now.
We started working on Pocket in 2020, and the goal then has stayed the same. We hope to be able to serve as many learners as 2 million by 2025 is my goal. I think that it really is going to be through the interactions with our partners and the employers and the institutions that we work with. And really along the way, it's going to be about figuring out how the feedback from the learners and getting from them how to make it better and better. So 2 million users by 2025 is my goal.
Remember the funny-looking guy 25 seconds ago who said, don't answer in KPIs. Tell me the purpose, the essence. Tell me how you want to feel and what do you want to celebrate in terms of impact.
Thank you. So, I really have to go back to what one of the students said to me and shared with us. And, this student had just come out of a really, really wild situation in their lives. And when they, tested Pocket with us and they said, look, this is like owning the masters of my music. And the look in his eye, the way that for him, this represented his identity, this represented who he is, this represented his contribution. That, to me, would be the most powerful and impactful sign of success of any type. It would be to ask the students, how do you feel now that you have a Pocket? And the best answer that I would really look to hear is, this is me, and I now can represent myself and my skills and what I can do anywhere. That would be what I look for, and that's the goal that I aim for.
Thank you very much. I have a short list of thanks. I want to thank everybody who presented, and I want to thank the two great participants in our rebound session, but mostly, I want to thank CET for inviting me. I want to thank my mom and dad, but mostly, I want to thank the person who lowered the air conditioner on stage. My God, I was bloody shivering. I ran on Baghdad temperatures. Cecilia, I'm not from Finland. My God. Thank you all very much. See you next time.
Thank you so much. I think we all wanted to get a sofa and sit next to you guys. Incredible panel, really. Thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you so much.